So big day today. I'm going to pick up the Nikon 85 1.2, the pre-release lens for a few days. By the end of the month or the very early next month, I'll get my copy of the lens. So very excited to kind of touch and feel and see what the lens is like. My God, today it's going to rain today. So I braved rain, a lot of waterlogging, and my car got stuck. So it was a tough time getting to the Nikon office and then finally getting the lens and coming back home. But like they say, good things make you wait. Good things make it hard for you to get to them. I guess that was what it was like in my case here. I finally got hold of the 85 1.2 and I spent some significant amount of time with the lens. Meanwhile, I know that my copy of the lens will arrive by 24th March, which is very exciting. I'm going to get India's first copy of the 85 1.2. It's going to be the first build copy here in this market. So I'm very excited and I feel privileged that Nikon decided to keep me at the top of the list. And that's that's amazing. I actually can't wait to use my copy of the 85 1.2 with a new camera of mine, and I'm thinking Z6 III or Z8, and I think the Z8 is going to come out in less than 60 days. But we have heard some rumors about the Z8 being a large body and some concerns around it. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I have the 85 1.2, and if you want to watch the review, my review on this, I'm going to do quite a few videos on the 85 1.2 as I dive deeper into the lens. I'm going to do quite a few reviews, so watch out for this space on the internet. But today I'm going to talk about something else. Today I'm going to talk about what's happening with Nikon broadly. I mean, this lens is out. What the next thing that you were waiting for is the 200 to 600 in terms of lens, and the 35 1.2. I think the recent launch of the 26 2.8, I don't know if anyone was actually missing that lens, but well, there you have it. I mean, you have that lens. Great. In terms of what you're looking for, I think the moment you have the 200 to 600, we'll have a very good full lineup. And I'm personally interested in, because I'm not a dedicated wildlife shooter, but I would like to definitely try it when is the right time or it's convenient for me. And not only for wildlife, there are other things that you shoot. You can shoot landscape with the 200 to 600. Of course, the 100 to 400 is more sort of manageable for landscape, but if you have to have one lens, I'd rather have the one that with more reach than the 100 to 400. I can get something very similar with the 70 to 200 on an APS-C body. So yeah, that's my, not exactly the same thing, but something quite similar. Or I can go for the Tamron 70 to 300 and put it on the Z30 or the Z50 and get a very similar sort of range. Of course, the optical quality is I'm sure it's not going to be like the 100 to 400 from Nikon, or they won't be as fast or as bright. But for someone who is not very serious about that genre of photography, I think it works for me. But the 200 to 600 is in fact, when I had the Sony A7 IV, and often for the last 1 year I've been thinking, should I actually get the Sony 200 to 600? But I didn't get it because I know Nikon will come up with one, and I have been waiting for that. That's what's been happening on Nikon. We've been waiting for that. But on the cameras, there seems to be still conversation on whether the Z8 is real or it's a myth. I mean, apparently Tom Hogan said that it's not going to come out. I saw someone quote him. I haven't read the article by Tom Hogan. Apparently he has said that the Z8 may not be the next camera, and it may take more time to come back. But from what I know, from my sources and from my information, I think it's going to be the next 2 months that we're going to see camera. Now, whether it's going to be Z8 or something else, I don't know. I think it's going to be a camera which is very, very important in terms of both video and photography. So if our Z8 is actually in Nikon's head, the Z7 Mark III in in a different, a better shell, I mean, I'm fine. Call it the Z7 Mark III. But I think that's broadly the specification. We're looking for a Canon R5 Mark II fighter, not necessarily an A7 R5 fighter, a Canon R5 fighter. That's what you're looking at. Okay, a good, well-rounded hybrid camera, and a pro body. But the bummer is that Nikon apparently there's this rumor that this body is going to be a large body. It's going to be almost like the D850. Now, to be honest, I love the outer of the D850, but I did not like holding that camera. I like the size of the 750, even the 780, but not the D850. I thought it was a bit too cumbersome for most situations. I always like light cameras. I always like. Having said that, here is a Z9. Thanks, Nikon, for loaning it to me once again. And here's the 85 1.2. Okay, the 85 1.2 Z9. What I absolutely love is how easy a heavy system becomes when I have something which is designed like the Z9. And I'm telling you, it is heavy. It is heavy. But I can rest my hand here. Okay? I mean, there are ways you can manage it. And for something like this 85 1.2, for something like the 50 1.2 or the larger lenses, this sort of body design without the grip really makes a lot of sense. Because then, honestly, after holding the Z9, I want to have the same feeling when I hold the Z6. Okay, here's the Z6. I mean, the Z6 is designed to have your pinky floating, and I don't have big hands at all. It's designed to have your pinky free. Okay, so this is good, but my biggest thing for the Z9 grip is that, see, the contours are very similar, the Z8 and the Z9 and the Z6 and the Z7. But you see this one, you see this curve here. Now the way I can really, my finger kind of fits inside that curvature, and then I can almost like, hold it almost like two fingers, and rest it on my rest of the palm, and therefore holding it is much easier. And I don't mind if they just take this large battery off, and they make this a little flat, and just so broadly this is the body. And if this is the body for the Z8 or the Z7 Mark III, I'm cool with it. Yes, I think the expectation from me is to now then reduce the weight as much as possible without compromise. I mean, with smart compromises, yes, but not with a lot of compromise. So, I mean, yeah. So, again, we're going back to a very old story. Z9 without the grip, and then, but maintain the overall body size, maintain the overall ergonomics, the design, round viewfinder. That's very important. I mean, I would prefer this round viewfinder. And I think there is also a conversation that the viewfinder on the Z8 is going to be different. It's not going to be 3.69 million dot viewfinder. The conversation is that it's going to be a bigger, much higher resolution viewfinder. Now, that is the only hint to the Z8 being a higher resolution camera than the Z9. That's the only hint so far. But I know that if Nikon follows Sony and does another A7R5 in the Z8, it's going to be a smaller market for Nikon, definitely, most definitely. But if it fights with Canon R5 or R5 Mark II, you have a much more well-rounded camera. You must watch Jordan's review. What's the channel's name? I forgot. Jordan's review on the A7R5 video features, and he said that it's a frustrating video camera. In the Z8, you cannot have a frustrating video camera. Let me tell you that. You Nikon cannot afford to do that. If they do, they will lose as the market goes or shifts or changes. They will lose the new people who are buying into gear. That's for certain. That's sure going to happen if they're going to if they follow the A7R5, and I don't think they should. Therefore, okay. Now, could there be a Z6 Mark III in the same time frame? Yeah, there could be. This is the 85 1.8, and I'm going to go today and shoot both of them and see. Also, of course, interchange the lenses. So, are we expecting a Z6 Mark III? I haven't heard about Z6 Mark III coming in anytime soon. It could be the second half of the year that you see both the Z7 and the Z6 Mark IIIs. But before that, we might see either a ZF. Remember what Sony is doing. I think with the ZVE10 or something like that. So there could be a ZF there, or a Z90 or something like that, and definitely something like a Z8, which is a very pro grade camera, not a prosumer body camera. I think these are going to come in the second half of the year when people like to buy this for Christmas or New Year or all of that. I think for professionals this year, Z8 is the focus, and Nikon is going to come out of the Z8. We might see a Z90 or a Z70. If Nikon does that, bravo, fantastic. They should do that. Now, I am going to respond to a few questions that people put at different forums. Let's read it. Someone says, if the Z8 does end up being as tall, as wide as a D850, then I'll be happy to stick to the Z7 line. For many enthusiasts like me, it's just the right size. I can easily fit it into backpack or average size shoulder bag. Holding the Z7 for hours doesn't tire me too much, and the Z7 smaller size is not intimidating or conspicuous when photographing in a public space. And I agree with this 100%. Where I think the Z6 or the Z7 body can be better is definitely the screen, the build quality, the grip. It can be better. We can afford to have a slightly extended bottom, and keeping the weight the same. I think that can be done through many things. That's a challenge. Definitely, that's a challenge. But you're not going to have such a large battery. I mean, immediately when you do not have such a large battery, you're going to save a lot of space. So a lot of weight there. So I don't have the final answer, but I can see merit in both. I can see the merit in having a slightly larger body for the Z8. I can see the merit in keeping the Z8 small as the Z6 and the Z7, but at the same time to include the professional touch and feel, the lighted buttons, the mode button on the left, all of those things, a much better LCD screen on top of the body. Those things matter. Also, more custom buttons. The Z9 has 4 custom buttons. I'd like to see at least 3 on the Z8. In fact, what Nikon should do is Nikon should not change things much and just go with 4 custom buttons. Because if you look at Sony, the Sony bodies have so many more custom buttons than the Nikon bodies have. That's it. I mean, that's the fact. So if you're really competing with Sony, you are mentioning Sony so many times in your press release and whatnot, I think you should take the best from Sony, which is to allow a lot of customizations to your buttons, a lot more customization to each button, and a lot more custom buttons. To experiment with the screen, especially in the recent years, but definitely maintain the Nikon quality and the build. But can you experiment with how the screen moves? Multi-angle screen like Panasonic, like Sony now, and definitely also like this Fuji X-T5 and X-T3. I mean, they are being innovative with those screen implementations. So I'd like to see that happen with the next cameras. I'm not talking about only the Z8. I'm talking about the entire line. Okay, I think we should. Sony has figured it out, and we should stop debating over should it be a tilt screen or a flip out screen. We need both in different situations. So, and that's the way to go. And it doesn't honestly look to me to be a very difficult to implement solution. The only thing that changes essentially is that you have a thicker screen because you have like more hinges there. You have a thicker screen, so the body of the camera becomes a bit fatter as well. If you want to maintain a slimmer profile, then you have to manage more stuff within the same thickness, same space inside the body. That's the only challenge that I can think of. Otherwise, okay, there could be quality control challenges where Nikon says, "Oh, it's too complicated. It can be fragile, so therefore, let's not do it." I don't think so. I think Nikon should at least take a few first steps and see what works out for them. They can try it with the Z90 or the Z70. Why not? Okay, that's about it for you guys today, and I'm going to share my views on the 85 1.2 very soon. So if you want to see that, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it already. If you're new to my channel, I talk a lot about Nikon, Sony, Fuji. I just immerse myself in this camera experiences and photography experiences. I do not call myself a filmmaker, but I just want to share my deeper understanding of where the industry is moving, how people are using cameras, and a little bit and the little bit of the fun about it. That's what I talk about on this channel. So if you like that, do subscribe, and I'm going to see you very soon with another one.